All right, everyone. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today, we are going to basically finish up the market structure stuff. We're going to be talking about a little bit about the monopolies, how it started, and the laws that were created to stop them. Okay, so this will be the last time we talk about monopolies. Also, we're going to be talking about several government agencies that are used to protect consumers and workers. So we're going to finish this off today for this week. But when we come back from spring break, that's when we're going to really be talking about the real world stuff, money management, the how to build your credit, things like that. So we'll be getting into that when we come back from winter break. Spring break. Sorry about that. But let's go ahead and get started with this lesson. So let's look at the objective. There it goes. So we're going to analyze the laws our country created to prevent monopolies from forming and gaining power. Okay, we're going to examine the different federal agencies created to protect consumers. And then we're going to create an argument on which agency plays the biggest role in our everyday lives. Okay. So here is your warm-up picture. Now, this only has two questions. Okay. First one says to analyze the picture and what is this artist trying to say about business and regulations? Okay. The second question basically asks you kind of, in a sense, make a prediction, but not really. It's, do you think regulations help or hurt businesses? Now, the thing is, you have to remember, regulations are basically laws over businesses. Okay, so what type of regulations we're talking about is about business, making sure that they don't do certain things, that they follow certain rules, stuff like that. So without regulations, that means they have more power to do what they want. Okay, so in the second question, you have to look at the perspective of the businesses. Okay, not as a consumer like you and I are right now. You have to look at it from the business point of view. So is regulations good or bad for businesses? So look at the business point of view and make your decision and back it up. Okay? So be sure to explain why. All right. So once you're done with that, we're moving on to the notes, which will begin in 3, 2, 1. So here's the thing. I've said it from the very beginning of economics. Government and economics play a huge role. They go hand in hand together. Okay. Now, the thing is, in the late 1800s, companies started forming monopolies. The oil company, the Standard Oil, which you see right here, John D. Rockefeller, basically had a monopoly on oil. Carnegie, the Carnegie Steel, had a monopoly on steel. So there were some companies that were creating monopolies. And the thing is, there were some states that were like, these guys are being too powerful. They can do whatever they want basically because they have the market. They cornered us, So a lot of states said, monopolies are illegal. So in order to avoid legal ramification, some monopolies decided, there's some loopholes we can go through. And one of them was creating a trust, which is, legally formed combinations of corporations or companies. So it's not like, we don't own it. The trust does. And the trust owns different companies. So really, they own the stuff. It's not just one person, not one thing. It's a trust. Okay. So the first big law to come through was the Sherman Antitrust Act. Okay. As years went on, other ones would follow. The Clayton Antitrust Act, the Federal Trade Commission was created, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and in the Robinson-Patman Act, of 1936. So the Clayton Antitrust Act, what basically says that it's a provision against price discrimination. Now, a lot of times when you hear the word discriminate or discrimination, you tend to think of race. minorities are being discriminated against for whatever reason. In this case, that's not what we're talking about. So think of something like, let's say Coca-Cola, right? The soda. Let's say they have a monopoly, right? Almost everywhere around the country, they kicked out the competition. But let's say in your town, there's Pepsi. Pepsi is still fighting, right? So in the town, the price of Coca-Cola, they would drop the price. So instead of, let's say, $1 for like a 20-ouncer of Pepsi, for that $1, you could get like a liter of Coca-Cola. But thing is, nowhere else around the country where Coca-Cola has a monopoly, they would have that price. A liter would still cost like $4 or $5 or whatever it may be. That is price discrimination, because where there's competition, they'll lower the price, but everyone else still has to pay the same. That's price discrimination. Okay. So what happened is they said, okay, well, we're not going to do that. So what they did is they gave special discounts to some customers where they denied it to others. So they said, oh, it's not the prices, it's a discount. You change the word, but still it means the same thing. So again, discrimination has nothing to do with price discrimination has nothing to do with race, your sexual orientation, your religion, none of that stuff. To be honest, a lot of these companies could care less what your color your skin is. They could care less who you love and stuff like that. They could care less about what religion or what God you pray to. The only thing they see that they love is the color green. That's it. So they don't care if whatever color you are, whatever race you are, or whom you love, or stuff like that, who you marry, they could care less. All they care about is your money. Okay? So here's my question to you. How do you think life would be if these antitrust laws or these anti-monopolist laws were not created? Let's say you could only get one type of oil, which was Standard Oil. Let's say you can only get like Pepsi or Coca-Cola. Let's use Coca-Cola because we already used that example. So you say that there's no Pepsi, all you could drink is Coca-Cola products. Okay. Let's say there's no PlayStation. All it is Xbox in this country. How would life be like that? If there was a bunch of, again, no competition, there's only one type of thing. So again, like, what do I have around here? Bottled water. There's only one type of bottled water around. You can't get any other type. How would the world be like with that? And also, the second part of this is, do you think those prices would be high or low? Okay, because again, there's some people who say if someone has a monopoly on all the, let's say, game systems, let's say it's only Xbox, they say that the price is going to go high because, hey, where else are you going to buy? You can't buy PlayStation. You can't buy a Nintendo Switch. All you have for entertainment is an Xbox, so they're going to kick up the price. Then there's some people who say, no, if there's a monopoly, the price won't go high, it will go low, because they don't want competition. Because they know if the price goes too high, somebody's going to come up and say, well, I can make a video game system, and it will be cheaper than that one. So they don't want competition, so they'll keep the price low. So which school of thought do you go more with? Okay. All right, so now we're going to get into the government agencies. Now, the thing is, the first one started in 1906. And since then, we've had about 12 of them whose primary job is to look after you, the consumer, the buyer, and protecting you, the worker. Okay, so we're going to look at that kind of stuff. All right. So again, the first one was in 1906. That was the Food and Drug Administration. It's called the FDA. They basically make sure that laws are created and followed to make sure that the food you get and the medicine you get is pure, it's effective, and there's truthfulness on the labeling of what the foods and drugs and even cosmetics, the makeup and stuff that you guys wear. They basically inspect products and the shipment of those products to make sure that they actually are shipped safely, that there's nothing going to go wrong with it and stuff like that. The reason this one was made, because back in the day, this guy Sinclair wrote a book basically talking about the meat industry, and it made people really sick to their stomach after reading this, because he was talking about what he saw and things like that, and just the nasty conditions in there. And some people started investigating as well, see if it's true, and they found out that it is. There were some people said that they saw, people working big chunks of meat in like bins, and then some would fall off, and there, on the ground, there's guts, there's people walking on stuff, and they just pick it up and put it back in there. There's even one I read about a rat that was on a beam, a metal beam, and it slipped and it fell into this meat grinder, and people saw it. People saw the rat fall in and trying to get out, but it can't, and get crushed with the other meat. Yeah. There was even one, I remember they're saying that they saw the meat people get old gray and green looking meat, basically like chop it really, and then throw it inside the grinder with the fresh meat, so that people were eating old meat that's been out for who knows how long, that wasn't sold, just things like that. So then they chopped it up and just put in with the new meat. This made people sick to their stomachs. And people were like, we're eating that? No. Who's watching them to make sure that they're actually selling us good stuff? They're not trying to kill us or poison us and things like that. So that's when the government stepped in, created the FDA. The next one to come up was the Federal Trade Commission. Now, this was, again, the antitrust laws forbidding unfair competition, price fixing, which we talked about last week, and other deceptive practices, such as cartel agreements and things like that. Okay. The next one to come up was the FCC, the Federal Communication Commission. They basically license and regulate radios and television stations. Okay, so anything free that you can get with just an antenna, like, your local stations, B95, 97.8, things like that, ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, all those stations have to follow FCC's regulations because they're free. Anyone can pick them up. Now, stuff like your Sirius XM, your cable, HBO and stuff like that, those things, if you notice, people cuss in them, and that's okay, because the thing is, you are paying extra so you're able to hear the stuff, those jokes on those Sirius XM stuff, Howard Stern, when they say outlandish stuff. Same thing with cable, when you watch like Saw, people getting dismembered and stuff like that, because you pay extra, you can see that. But since it's free, like on Fox and ABC, they edit the stuff for time and because it's like indecent stuff. Okay. The regulating telephones, telegraphs don't exist anymore, but they do regulate phones still to this day. Okay. The next four is like the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. So they regulate and supervise the sales of listed and unlisted securities, the brokers, the dealers, and bankers, the stock market people. They make sure that you are not being swindled, that you're, if you invest, that you're being you're not being cheated, that these brokers, these stock market brokers aren't doing things that can cost you money while making them rich, that they don't give you false information, stuff like that, or, stuff like that with stock market. The next one is the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB. Their thing is to basically manage relations laws with regards to labor. So if there's some labor disputes going on, some unfair labor practices, they come in and they say, okay, let's see what we can do. So if there's something between a union and a company, they would step in and say, okay, let's see what we can work out. They're kind of, it's like a mediator. And if there are some things that are not right, they step in. The next one is the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. Anything doing with stuff in the air, okay? Helicopters, airplanes, even drones now, they're in charge. And so, like, I don't know if you guys remember, like, from last year, Kobe Bryant, when his helicopter went down, if you watch the news reports again, you'll hear them say that FAA is investigating. Okay, because they're going to see, well, what was the problem? Was it the machinery's problem? Was it the pilot's problem? Was it something like unexpected, like a flock of birds coming, hitting the propellers and dropping it, making it drop? So what was the issue? That's what they do. Okay. The next one is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC. Their job is to investigate and rule on charges of discrimination by employers and labor unions. So they basically look to see, like, if you think, like, hey, you know what? These guys don't really hire minorities who are more qualified than these other people, but they hire these guys. Like, why? Maybe because the race, they might be all a certain race. They might be all from, a certain college and things like that. So there might be some discrimination going on. They're only hiring certain people from a certain background, a certain religion, things like that. Or they may be even denouncing people because, hey, they are a certain religion, they're a certain race, they have a different sexual orientation. So if something like that happens, that's when the EEOC would come in and say, yeah, you guys can do that. So that's their job, to make sure everyone gets a fair shot. So we've gone over 7 of the 12 agencies, okay? So what you guys are going to do in this question, you're going to pick 2 that you feel are the most important, okay? So there's a list of them: the FDA, FTC, FCC, SEC, NLRB, FAA, EEOC. Now, you guys are very fortunate watching this video, because you can honestly pause it right now and go back and listen to what each one was, or even read it for yourself and see what each one does. And then you can answer this question. In class, it was kind of hard. Some people had no idea. They had to listen to it the first time, and I had to repeat it, so they might not have caught it. So you guys are very fortunate. All right, so pause the video, answer the question. If you have to go back, okay? But we're going to be moving on in 3, 2, 1. Now, this next one, this was actually created by Richard Nixon, a person that a lot of people didn't think would create something like this. He created the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. These guys protect and enhance the environment. They make sure that companies don't dump their toxic waste and stuff like that in drinking water and stuff like that. The thing is, sometimes some companies get away with it. Sometimes they do it and it's already too late for the EPA to come in and say, like, hey, stop that, because the damage has been done. all you have to do is look at Flint, Michigan. Google it, see about their drinking water, and I mean, it's a lot of horrible stuff. So if you're kind of interested, look that up. The next group, if you ever work at somewhere like construction place or like Rite Aid, Walmart, Target, you will see this posters on the boards, in the break rooms. It's called OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. These guys investigate accidents at the workplace. So if you fall off a ladder, things like that, they look at it. They enforce regulations to protect employees at work. So like I said, if you're on a ladder and you slip and fall, hurt your back, they're going to come investigate, like, how did this happen? Where was the ladder? Where did you fall? Now, if you are put a ladder against, a wall and you're doing this and that, and all of a sudden something happens where the braces on something just collapse and you fall backwards and you hurt yourself, then it's like, okay, hey, this was, a legitimate accident, things like that. It wasn't this person's fault. But if it's something like, and you can even look these up on YouTube, they're hilarious. People doing dumb things at work, like using a forklift to lift up a forklift to put something on a shelf. Now, if someone got hurt because of that, the things topple over, the hydraulics go down, the forklift that was being lifted up drops and the person gets hurt, OSHA's going to come in and go, why would you do that? That's not safe. So trust me, if you can see videos on the stupid things people do that OSHA would just be like, you're dumb. Watch those. Those are hilarious. People do some dumb things at work. And, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I had to sneeze there for a second. So the next one is Consumer Protection Safety Commission, the SPSC. These guys basically create a standard of safety for you and me, the consumers. So a great example of this was like back in the 80s. There was some Tylenol that people said, hey, people got poisoned by it. Somebody put poison stuff in there. So now if you buy Tylenol, Advil, aspirin, stuff like that, you'll see that there's a tape on the outside. It'll say on there, do not use if broken. Okay? So you crack that open, you take off the child safety top, and then you'll see a thin layer of like foil type of thing, and it'll say on there again, do not use if broken. It's because of these guys that made sure that when these Tylenols and some of that back in the 80s when people thought they were being poisoned, they probably did get poisoned if I remember right. Some people did die. They make sure, hey, that there's 2 seals on there, and if it is busted, don't use it because someone tampered with it. Okay. The next 2 are pretty interesting. The next one is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC. They regulate civilian use of nuclear material because they want to make sure that you don't become radioactive from being near nuclear material. So you don't do like Homer Simpson with the radiation stick on your back when you go home, stuff like that. The next one is the Federal Emergency Regulatory Commission, the FERC. They supervise transmission of various forms of energy. So they make sure that, hey, how do you get your electricity? It's okay, it's safe, things like that. Okay, that's their job. So now you have the complete list, all 12 agencies. So what you're going to do now is basically pick the top 3 that you feel are most important. Your first 2 might not have changed, but now you have a third option. So which one would you add? Maybe you did change some of them. Some other ones popped up. So let me know, okay? Which 3 do you feel are the most important and why? Okay. So pause the video, but we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So one last thing. In order for consumers to have adequate information about something, sometimes the government enforces companies to share information. This is called public disclosure. This is a requirement that publics reveal information to the public. Primarily, they do this at their stockholders meeting. Okay, so like this right here, this is a picture of a stockholder meeting for Walmart. If you look at the people on top, those people own at least one share of Walmart. The people on the floor level, they own thousands of shares, tens of thousands of shares of Walmart. Okay, and there Walmart will say, hey, you know what? We made a net profit of this much. We're doing really good. We expect the next quarter to be really good too. We're going to come up with a new brand of stuff. We're going to change our logo. We're going to try to buy out this company. That kind of stuff, they let their shareholders know, because this is the stuff that shareholders and the public should know about. So people would be like, well, I like what they're saying. I should buy more shares into it, put more invested into that company. Or they might be like, oh, that kind of sounds risky. I don't know if that's going to work. So I might sell my shares, So that kind of stuff is generally for the public, that these guys do have to disclose. So now we come to the exit ticket. Remember, just pick one of these questions. But the first one says, why is it so important for the government to create so many federal agencies? And do you think they're doing a good job? Why or why not? So those 12 agencies we talked about, why do you think we have so many? And do you think they're doing a good job? Okay. The second one says, why is it important for companies to inform their shareholders and the public about how the company is doing and their future goals? And the second part is, do you think they're always telling the truth? Do you think they're telling the whole truth? Or do you think that they're saying some stuff, but they're holding stuff back? What do you think? Okay. So once you answer your exit ticket question, you're done for the day. All right. So good job. Hopefully you guys learned something new. Hopefully, guys, you remember some of these government agencies, and you do appreciate that. Hey, these guys for the government, they are doing their job. They're trying to protect you, me, and stuff like that at our work, and making sure that when we buy something, it is safe. Okay. So good job, guys. You guys take care, be safe, and I'll see you later. All right.